What's up everybody? Matt Inman back once again for another review, and this time we're talking about The Lodgers. The Lodgers is directed by Brian O'Malley and stars Charlotte Vega and Bill Milner, and is the story of two Irish twins who inherit their parents' family estate, an estate that plays host to a nameless supernatural entity that keeps them under its own set of rules. This is a gothic horror tale that is absolutely brimming with atmosphere. Everything from the film's dark and yet gorgeous color palette, the understated yet effective score by David Turpin, and an ever-present sense of foreboding and dread drench this film's every frame, and bring forth one of the more compelling horror experiences I've seen in quite some time. On a technical level, this movie's pretty damn impressive, especially considering how medium to low budget it presumably is. As I stated, this is a very beautiful film. It's pretty dark at points, but I think that makes the colors that do show up pop even more. The usage of blues counteracting with the ever-present dark are stunning to look at and will keep your eyes fixated on the screen. This movie feels like it's an Edgar Allan Poe piece that has slipped off the page and onto the screen, which makes a lot of sense because it does share a lot of similarities with the fall of the House of Usher, but it does enough of its own thing to make it stand out on its own. You really get the sense that this was a labor of love between writer David Turpin and director Brian O'Malley. The two leads in this film do an excellent job of conveying their plight throughout the story. You can 100% buy into their struggle and feel how haunted they are by not only the spirits, but by their own history and the supposed curse that resides over their family. And that's where the true horror of The Lodgers lies, not in scares, ghouls, or ghosts, but the tragedy of life, the melancholy that can come with the questions of your fate, and if that fate can be sealed by the past actions of yourself or family before you. Ghosts are the personification and result of tragedy, loss, and unspeakable grief, and this is what The Lodgers understands and tries to convey to us. And it asks the question of whether we would succumb to the same fate set before us from our predecessor, or if forging a path to redemption for ourselves is even possible. However, this movie isn't without its faults. While I do praise the writing for perfectly conveying a gothic period piece horror, it unfortunately loses its footing a bit when it comes to the pacing. It tends to meander a little bit, especially towards the middle there. It gets lost in this ridiculously meaningless subplot that's simply used only for convenience. I know a slower pace is generally the standard for movies like this, and that I'm totally on board with. I just wish they would have focused more on the story at hand rather than trying to fill time with things that ultimately didn't matter. Another issue I had with the film was its rather weak ending. Once the action has finally fallen and we come upon a resolution, things just kinda end. I'm not asking for things to be tied up in a neat little bow for me or anything, but there's just this air of disappointment, and it definitely underwhelmed me. One thing I think people are gonna have a problem with in this movie is its sense of ambiguity, which again is the standard for most gothic horror pieces, and one that I'm actually quite a fan of, but it still begs to be brought up. In the film, there's talk of a curse that presides over the family, hence why they're haunted in the way that they are. It's never directly spoken of, but at times it's hinted at, and it definitely is pretty damn obvious at some points, but I still think it'll slip by some people, and it's gonna frustrate some of the viewers for not having that mystery fully solved for them. Overall, The Lodgers is one of those rare horror movies that transcends the genre, in my opinion, and isn't afraid to take steps and influences from other places. Sure, at its core, it's a standard gothic horror piece, but at times it wavers into a nice period drama as well. On a technical level, it's outstanding, and at a lot of times it's as beautiful as it is downright disgusting in terms of what's being shown, which I think is the perfect mixture for a film of this kind. It has its flaws here and there, sure, as does every movie, but some of them I don't have a huge problem with. But simultaneously, I think this film will have trouble connecting with a wider audience, and for those reasons I have to give The Lodgers an 83 out of 100. Basically, if you're into movies like The Witch, Woman in Black, Crimson Peak, or hell, even those old haunted house movies from the 50s, 60s, and 70s specifically, then I think you'll be right at home with this one. And that was my review of The Lodgers. If you've seen it, let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. And don't forget to stay tuned for my first episode of Hallow Rewind, in which I'll be covering Halloween Town 1 and 2. I'm super excited to be talking about these movies with you guys. Like I said, it's all about what ushered me into the genre as a kid, and these two movies were definitely one of those. So expect some like kid-friendly horror stuff this month. It'll be pretty much every week headed into Halloween, so be sure to stay tuned for that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do whatever the fuck you guys want to do. As always, I've been Matt Inman, and I will see you guys next time.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight. Spooky, scary skeletons speak with such a screech, you'll shake and
Also, here's some fun little bloopers, because this review was way fucking harder to make than I ever thought it was gonna be. Like, good lord. Ever-present dark are stunning to look at. It's really dark at points, but I think that would... Fuck! Ghosts are the... I do praise the writing for perfectly conveying a period. I'm not asking for things to be tied up in a neat little bow or anything, but... Damn it. Another issue I had was its rather weak ending. I'm not asking for things to be tied up in a neat little bow or anything, but fuck, why can't I say it? To be tied up in a neat little bow or anything, but... Another issue I had was the film's rather weak ending. I'm not asking for... Fuck, I totally skipped this film's sense of ambiguity. Thanks, air conditioner. One thing I think people are gonna have a problem with... Okay. Which again is the standard for most gothic horror piece. Motherfucker. I'll have trouble connecting with a wider audience, and for that reason, I have to give... The Lodgers, that's the name of the movie. You think about it in the comments down below, and... of Hallow Rewind, I'll go ahead and reveal. And don't forget to stay tuned. Do whatever the fuck you guys want to do.